and quite possibly one of the most unbelievable news weeks in professional wrestling in some time. Vince McMahon has stepped down as CEO. Sasha Banks possibly has left the company. Jeff Hardy's got a DUI. God, we could go on for hours and hours, and yet somehow, some way, we have to come here and talk Smackdown with you this afternoon. There, thank you. Welcome to the Smack Chat. Money James McIver, alongside my partner in crime, as always, John Enright, and with our special guest who jumped in just for us, the Vet. How we doing, guys?
Hello, everyone.
Yay! Full disclosure, I'm only going to be here for about 10-15 minutes. I'm dying. So the COVID has decided to infiltrate this household, and I'm paying the goddamn toll for it. It's not fair, man. It's not fair. You know what's even more annoying, right, is my other half got it at the start of the week, and she's now slowly coming out of it. And now that she's slowly coming out of it, I'm now slowly going into it. Like, what kind of fucking Dorian Gray nonsense is that? Like, what the fuck?
Well, that's how viruses
not
work,
fair.
James.
I
That's
know.
how viruses work. Somebody gets it, and the other person gets it, and you're going to have different time frames. I mean,
yeah. To be fair, I got to play nurse this week. My other half gets to play nurse when she's better, when I'm down. So it's okay. It's a fair trade. We look after each other. That's all that matters. That's a good thing. But I had to come on. I had to come and chat with you guys because Jesus Christ, what has happened in the past 7 days? Like the news cycle, everything that's went down. I was just like, I don't know about you guys, but I was like on Twitter, just like scrolling all the time, just trying to get something out of this. And my God.
And what'd you get? What'd you find?
A world of wonder and madness. Like getting my head around the whole Vince McMahon. Like, so when this started on Wednesday, when it came out about the hush money that he paid, what was it? A legal. It was a legal. Paralegal, that's the word I'm looking for. It's a paralegal colleague that he had allegedly had an affair with, but we kind of now know they had an affair. It's whether or not
gross, by the way.
Yeah, we find out that that Vince does like tag teams, apparently.
Oh no.
Allegedly.
That's just like, come on, boys. Like, sort your shit out. What are you doing?
Just for the record, look, saying that affairs happen, especially you want to talk about a McMahon involved in. Oh, you mean Vince McMahon is accused of banging somebody that he probably shouldn't have been? Well, in other news, the sky is blue and water's wet.
Yeah.
This is not like. That's why, to me, when I hear this, I'm just like, so. But everybody else wants to get up in arms. But also, what maybe well known in wrestling circles, but not necessarily in all public circles, because most people probably don't know who John Laurinaitis even is, but his name has been around this kind of stuff like the whole time. I can't tell you how many, now personally, obviously I never saw anything with my own two eyes, but I can't tell you how many rumors have been flying about how many divas got their jobs. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And
a few of them have told their story about that as well.
And watching, again, not accusing anybody of anything, but with the just the thought in my mind, like when I was seeing on like Total Divas and Total Bellas, where like he marries their mom, and I'm like, because I kind of wonder if like he's sampled all the goods in the entire family type thing. Like this is kind of does she know that kind of thing? So
man, like
so
this
isn't
notches
even
on the bedpost and a half.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, the kids' bedroom and the master bedroom. So that's pretty gross. But but my point is, in saying all that, is that this should come as a surprise to absolutely no one. No one should be shocked and everything like that. What people should be surprised about is that at this current time, when there's all this tumultuous turmoil going on in the company, that this just so happens to get out. This info just so happens to leak out now.
Yeah.
I guess the hush money really wasn't that hush, or somebody found it. Which why would there be anything to find? Why is this on the books? People aren't supposed to put the hush money in the company ledgers and things like that. Yeah. Not like you can't afford it out of your own pocket. This whole thing is very, very suspect and bizarre.
Yeah. Well, as far as my understanding is, I might be totally wrong, so please correct me if I'm wrong here, is a lot of this came out because the paralegal in question, their friend had come out or said to someone about this, and it's made its way to the board. And it's the board that leaked the story out to the Wall Street Journal. That's kind of what my understanding was for that there. So that seems like a bit of a power play in my mind, that someone's seen an opportunity here. Because how often does the Wall Street Journal report on anything WWE, like at all, apart from maybe TV rights or things like that? Like, to come out with something like this, and I think it's not so much that people aren't so surprised that this has happened. What makes it a big deal is it's put the company into disrepute. Like, it's just, you can make a case that it's his own money for the hush money, but this has clearly been a conflict of interest, and it's influenced his decisions as CEO in terms of how this person's hired. And if they brought this person into this position, they worked her up for the very reasons that, you know, this investigation's going on. You'd imagine so, like, allegedly. We don't want to kind of put the finger on there, but you'd imagine
everything we talk about, just so we know if you're listening, everything we talk about is alleged. Alleged. Yeah.
All right. We're also not going to name who the person is or anything like that. I'd recommend, if you are watching the live chat, please don't do that either. That'd be nice, because
she's already been doxxed by a certain journalist. So
yeah, what a
you may already know.
Clown. Like I couldn't believe when I found out that had happened. I was absolutely raging. Like, how dumb do you need to be? Like, really, that's a lawsuit that they'll be having to deal with for years to come. So good luck with that.
Obviously, they didn't take journalism law like I did when I was in school taking broadcasting, and you learn you don't do shit like that.
Yeah, you don't even need a degree for that. You just need to be a normal human being with a regular functioning mind.
Over here, so like for my broadcasting degree, everybody had to take First Amendment law. You know, you had to take that to learn what you can and can't do when you're broadcasting news and telling stories. And so the fact that somebody did that makes me go, one, they're a complete and utter moron. Two, they did not take journalism school, because you do not leave journalism school without, the basics of First Amendment law. Yeah. And three, you just are a fucking moron. Totally. You have no clue what you're doing. I mean, it's just stupid on that aspect of it. But, then again, this is wrestling journalism, who they don't care about being right. They care about being first. And they don't care who they burn in the process. I mean, there are times where that's why I don't read wrestling news sites or bullshit, because it's not news. It is the TMZ of journalism for wrestling. I mean, it does nobody any good, because they don't report shit. They report like speculation and rumor. There is no basis for half the stuff. I think that's part of the reason why, if whoever went to the board, if it was the board or whoever, that's why they went to the Wall Street Journal, because you think that is an epitome of journalism. They're going to protect their sources. They're going to cite it. They're going to look for, cooperation. They're going to have two sources that back up what they're doing. If I'm going to tell a story like this, I'm going to go to the Wall Street Journal, not the New York Times, not the Post, the Wall Street Journal. Even though, you can say what you want, that still kind of, to me, stands as a bastion of journalism and professionalism in a story like that. So whereas you go, you know what, this is like a real thing if this is happening and it's being reported by the Wall Street Journal. Whereas if you'd have done the Times or anybody else, you'd be like, I don't know. But, and so to me, like, if this is a big deal, but like the vet said, we kind of talked about it, it's who benefits from this? Who's the real winner from this getting out now? I mean, I'm not saying this isn't a bad thing. Here's the problem though. This is no different than what we're experiencing down here in Dallas with Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones caught, paying someone off for like 20 plus years of having his illegitimate child, and has been found out that he was paying hush money for a long period of time in a non-disclosure agreement. And then the daughter's like, well, no, that applied to my mom, not to me. So she took Jerry Jones to court saying, I want my share of what I deserve as a child of Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, there's pictures of Jerry Jones in the bathroom with hookers. So it's not like we didn't know Jerry wasn't fucking everything here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area or wherever he went. That is not a secret. So, like, basically, there's so many parallels between Jerry Jones and Vince McMahon that it's not even funny anymore. For me, I'm going, yeah, okay, so rich asshole has an affair and keeps it quiet. Rich asshole has an affair and keeps it quiet. Is there any difference between the two? Not really. They both own billion-dollar companies and think that nothing applies to them. And so, what do you expect? I mean, are you surprised by this? I wasn't. I was just like, okay, cool. The only thing I could think of is if this was company money that was used to keep her hush, then you think, and you look at all the releases that they had of wrestlers who released because it was budget saving, things.
Christ, could you imagine releasing Braun Strowman to pay for hush money?
But
that's pretty much what it equates to, really, is what Braun Strowman was on.
Yeah. So I mean, that's I think that's the important part of this is, not necessarily that he's had the affair, but what illegally has been done with the money. But then again, like Vet and I have said, who benefits from this? Who's the one that really benefits? And I said, this is like you're saying, okay, well, Vince can't be CEO, but he's still going to be part of creative, which he's the shittier thing at. He's a better businessman than the creative. And that would be like Jerry Jones, that, hey, Steven is now the owner of the Cowboys, but I'm still being general manager. When he's been the shit general manager for the last 25 years, but yet we're going to let him keep that job that he really sucks at, that he shouldn't be doing anymore, but we're going to take away the job that he's still pretty good at. That's
what I was hoping for. I was hoping for the full step down.
Right.
Not the step down from the part that doesn't matter. I tweeted something like to the effect of like, that's what he needs to step away from. Anybody can sit in a chair and be told how many Seth Rollins keychains got sold last quarter.
Right.
That's not an important job. Just like it's not going to be important for Stephanie. She's just, she's just going to do what she always does. It's not going to make a damn bit of difference who's in charge.
Well, apparently
anybody could do that job, including any of the three of us. We can be the CEO of WWE.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're as qualified, if not more, than anybody else for that position because they all fake their way to it. So
apparently she's terrible at her job. So there's that. Like that's wild as well.
It was also funny too. Funny too, right, terrible. James? How she's like, I'm stepping away. No, you're not.
Yeah, that was it. It was like the whole it seems as I'm stepping away to look after my family. Then 7 days later, someone put out a hit piece on her, total burying the work she does as like a brand manager and all that stuff. And then not even a week after that, now Stephanie's coming in as CEO. And the theory going was the whole reason they did the hit piece on her was to help the stock price. So rather than her walking away willingly, if it came out that they got rid of her because she wasn't doing that great a job, it would mean that the stock would kind of margin out a little bit better for them, because it means that it's not that she didn't want to work there, it's the fact that they wanted to upscale who they had and improve. But clearly that's not the case. And then, as you say, brought right back in.
Yeah, that's the story we're going with is, well, even if my children, if they can't do the job, then they got to go. And then secret. It's like, well, so maybe it is admitting that his job is even less important than Stephanie's old job. That could be the case. He is more expendable. But, the main point, as John brought up, is we don't care who sits in the chair. We need somebody off the headset in the back at Gorilla. That's who we need off the job. Anybody would be better than what we've been getting. I'm not saying they'll be good, but, we've tried this long enough.
I mean, God, last night was a sweaty opening. Like, you didn't know anything. He could have said anything last night when he opened up. And he said nothing, basically. Although some intimated that it's maybe more of a kind of quiet, I'm going nowhere, I'm fighting this sort of statement that he was wanting to make. But, yeah, that was a very sweaty afternoon leading up to Smackdown. Not the potential of what he could have said, what could have happened, and the fact he had that power in his hands. despite all this, is insane.
So something I did read too, as kind of, I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory or whatever. They're doing that documentary on Vince right now, and this was the only time to get him to say "Welcome to SmackDown." Basically he walked out, no chance, and then "Welcome to SmackDown," and then walked out, and then also of course, with everything going on with the news, you're trying to get a bump of the ratings by saying Vince McMahon's going to appear live on TV, and so
yeah,
of course Vet and I tried to look. We haven't seen the ratings yet. They're not posted. But was there a bump between Vince McMahon being live on TV and then Roman Reigns' main event with Matt Riddle? Who knows?
Once I think as soon as the Vince thing finished, click, everyone's off there. That's not a lasting number. 15 minutes you would have got from that, especially when it was all video packages for the first half hour. Jesus, no need for that. But
my guess would be that whatever even bump they might have got will not be significant.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't have lasted. It would never have lasted. I forgot what I was going to say. Bear with me for a wee second here. I'll come back to me. Ignore me. I'll come back.
Well, Liz had brought up a bit ago, like we already sort of mentioned. I don't know whether it was in pre-show chat or if we've already talked about it, but she brought up the insider trading thing about the stock dropping, and I believe Kevin Dunn's name was brought up around that, but I don't know anything about this. I'm hearing it from the first time from you guys, so I didn't read whatever you guys wrote.
I'm a bit hazy.
Yeah, so I read it. So basically, in April, they started this investigation, and at the beginning of May, they didn't release the name at first, but someone dumped about $2 million worth of stock, in that moment right after the board started their investigation. And so now it's looking like the person that did that was Kevin Dunn. And so the possibility of insider trading, knowing this was going to happen when it hadn't been released publicly yet, knowing that the stock was going to take a hit, and making that move, there's talk of maybe that he dumped his stock knowing that they were going to take a hit. And so he's the one that is closely related. I think it's because they're looking at, like, it went through a proxy, but his stock's unloaded around the same time that would be about the same value of what his stock dump was. So that's why.
What is the source on that, John?
That was, if I remember correctly, that was in a New York Times article that I saw.
That's fingering Kevin Dunn.
That they've
the
mentioned
New York
Kevin
Times.
Dunn. That's mentioned Kevin Dunn. Yeah.
What's their source? Because it's not like the New York Times is investigating this shit.
Right.
They don't care.
Yeah. So
and how would they even know to investigate it? And here's my question. Maybe Liz can help with this question, because look, I'm not a stock guy. Okay, I don't really put any stock into it. But anyway, but so the thing about it is, in a situation like that, where you're privy to the information, but it's still your stock, like. At what point is it not insider trading? Do you have to wait until there's public knowledge? You can sell or buy your own stock in the company for any or no reason at any time. Yeah. So they can never prove that it's insider trading. But I'll tell you what, if I heard something that I thought was, like if I work at the company and I know, you're always privy to information. You would anything you do is insider trading technically. So I don't know how they can bust somebody for that or investigate into that, because look, it's like, oh shit, the CEO of my company had an affair. Well, I better wait until the news gets out before I sell my stocks. Like, that what? Right. How can you not do it in that situation?
I would imagine that the wonder would be it's almost like fraud, isn't it?
Hang on. This is just the updated as of today. Following reports that Dunn may be investigating for insider trading, he's not a part of the board, so he had the rights to sell that stock without scrutiny. So if you're a board member, that's where it becomes an issue. If you're like upper management along those lines, those are your issues for it. But because he wasn't a member of the board, he was well within his rights, even though he probably knew the reason, he still could do that without scrutiny. So he kind of, it sounds like he dodged a little bit of a bullet there, but the question still becomes, what's ethical? I
was going to say is, like, depending on how that works, that almost amounts to fraud.
Yeah, this is wrestling. Like, who cares what's ethical?
It's carny.
True.
Even
it's
in the
just what you get caught doing.
Yeah.
There is no ethics in wrestling. It's only when you get caught, what are you going to say to get out of it? And as you said, James, because they're carnies, they'll be able to give people who do investigations the runaround as long as it takes, and they'll never find shit.
Yeah.
Then they won't. Like nothing good. Like, and by good I mean people getting removed in catastrophic, shake to the very core type of ways. That's not going to happen. We're all hoping for that and laughing at it possibly, but we're not probably going to get that.
Yeah.
So
do you think the company gets bought over before this investigation even comes close to finishing? Like,
no.
Does that sound like something they maybe, or do you think they need to get that out of the way?
What you said? Do you think the company gets what now?
Gets bought over, because there was the chat of selling the company for a while. Nick Khan's been behind a lot of selling the company.
I doubt it. I don't think there's any prospective buyers, to be honest.
I don't know.
I keep saying that, but
the price to buy it must have went down considerably off the back of this news.
Maybe it did, but they're not going to want to sell it for a low price. They want to sell it for a high price. That's why Nick Khan's even there.
Mm-hmm.
They want to make the money on the sale if there's a sale.
Right.
And even if there's not a sale, they still expect him to make it worth more, at least to bring more money in for them and make the deals that make them money, even if they don't sell. So, I just, but I don't think we're going to get anything major like we hope. Liz did say that you have to wait until it's public knowledge. Where she worked in accounting, they had trade windows where we couldn't make moves because we knew information before earning releases. Yeah. But with all the buying and selling and everything that you hear about the McMahon family doing, technically that could all be insider trading because everything's up in their head that they're going to do with the company before they do it. So that's where it's like, how do you prove it?
Yeah, it's very as the crow flies. So as soon as they get, as you say, if the catch when something like this happens, it's like they'll make a smart move before even anyone's aware of it. So you can't, as you say, you can't really account for being aware of things if you can keep it quiet and keep it on the down low. So it is what it is, I suppose. Bloody shame that.
But
that's another one I want to get rid of.
That's the whole thing about being rich and financial in the United States is there are so many loopholes that you can get around to maintain your money and keep it. So exactly, Vince McMahon says, well, I didn't really come up with that deal until we announced it, so I was really within my rights to trade. But we knew all along he had been thinking about it 6 months ago, and so, but at the same time, too, like I said, apparently Kevin Dunn dodged a bullet because he wasn't a member of the board, so he technically didn't know. And so because even though he's a high-ranking official, he's not within his rights, as I guess, as far as power and, stuff like that. Apparently he's not under scrutiny for insider trading as they originally thought. But there could be other issues of maybe a board member did. They don't know. It's a mess. Like I think the thing that's really the bigger thing is the financial aspect of this. Between the hush money, the insider trading, the things along those lines. I think those are the things that could be potentially more harmful for WWE in the long run than the issue of Vince having sex with somebody and tag teaming her with John Laurinaitis and having her sign an NDA. It's the financials that, kind of like with Al Capone, that might end up hitting them in the long run. That could be the issue, really. And then if that's the case, what happens to WWE, and who takes it over? Is it bought out? Does it, does it go anywhere? Does somebody pick it up for the cheap, like, WCW and move from there or what, what if I'm an executive for like Fox, ABC, CBS, I know I need programming. It's easy to do. It's cheap. It's not as, expensive as other shows. But do I want this stigma of the wrestling and the stuff on it for my brand?
That's why I hesitate to believe that there are prospective buyers lining up. I mean, first of all, we just know they're not because we haven't heard about it.
Right.
If anybody wanted to buy them, we'd have heard about it. But the reason they aren't is because wrestling's a joke.
Yeah.
And what are you buying? Right?
Right.
So you say, they have this, that the networks need content, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're say a Fox, okay, right now, as far as production and shit like that, the WWE's footing that bill, right? So that's why it's cheaper for you to show SmackDown than it is to say like create a new hour-long drama or two that's going to run on your network on Friday nights, because those cost, shooting TV episodes now cost, the budget of a small independent film for every episode. You're going to look at $1 million plus,
right,
to produce one episode, and you're going to be expected to have 13 episodes per season or whatever. So now you're looking at like the $26 million in production for your for your one season of one show, right? Now you take on the production costs of what WWE, how much does it cost for WWE to produce a show? And then you take that on, and then, oh, by the way, they don't have off seasons.
Right.
And you got to do the touring. So it's up to anybody to do the math and figure. I still think it would be cheaper in the long run, because then you wouldn't have to pay the exorbitant rights fees, right? Because you would own it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's probably the biggest thing. So the question is, do the rights fees cost more than the production in the end?
Yeah.
Or would you rather not take on the hassle of production and then just say, we'll just give you whatever money because we got it, so we'll just pay you to do it.
Right.
If you take that over, I don't know, the first time you realize, hey, wait a minute, we're putting this money into it. Even if you're saving money on rights fees, give it some time. People are going to forget about the fact that it's the rights fees are so exorbitant. Then you're just going to look down the line, and especially if there's changeover at the network where you got people coming in like a Nick Khan that have to look through the books, being like, "Where's the money being spent? Wait, how much does it cost to run SmackDown every week? And what are we making on that? And people aren't watching it." And advertisers don't want to advertise on it, let's just shut it down. And then all of a sudden the WWE goes extinct.
Yeah.
Like it could happen like that. If it could, WWE could become WCW in an instant. Yeah. It could all change in an instant. I'm saying that as Yoshihashi was on the screen not that long ago, but it can all change in an instant. And that's what would happen if the WWE sells. If you keep WWE in the family to whatever degree you can, they're probably not going to sell it to anybody because of that happening. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or at least they'll stick around and run it. This is all just my uneducated opinion, but that's what I foresee. And we, like I said to start with, we don't hear anybody basically kicking their door down. I think, I want to say it was Billy Body that said that the only prospective buyer was NBC because they don't have any original IPs, because Universal doesn't have IPs. And I'm like, Universal doesn't have IPs. I'm pretty sure Universal has some IPs.
Yeah.
And I'm sure whatever those are, I'm sure just the IP of Jaws, the shark from Jaws, is worth more than the WWE in terms of,
well,
I mean? But
The Office, you got to figure Office, Parks and Rec. Those are all, because they're all under Peacock, under NBC Universal. Yeah. Those are IPs, for them. So I think it's just more about the programming, and NBC already has a portion of it with paying for having WWE on Peacock, so it makes sense.
Or Raw, it's still Raw,
right?
It's still Universal money,
right? And so it just makes sense to transfer everything over, to where you can watch everything on the Peacock, and having Raw on whatever aspect you want to have it on. So,
couple things in the chat real quick before you go on, John. I just want to point out before we move on from these comments is like media says, what if nobody wants to announce they are buying due to many think wrestling is a joke? Well, what if nobody wants to buy wrestling because a joke?
Yeah.
So that's the whole point. Like, why would you be scared to announce you're buying it, but okay with unveiling that you bought it?
Right.
And then Buckshot Kid says, if a TV network buys WWE, all the wrestlers will be unionized. Well, there's something else to think about. That's right. Now, does this become a Screen Actors Guild issue? Is a network going to know, like, are they going to think that they're going to have to abide by industry standards and not keep doing these carny workarounds like the WWE has been?
No, because remember Turner bought WCW, but they were never unionized because they were a separate entity within Turner, and they still kept them as independent contractors. So that's how they got around that. So even if a network TV buys WWE, they won't be unionized because they'll still treat them as independent contractors and not Screen Actors Guilds, because they won't be considered actors, they'll be considered entertainers, and they'll be kept as independent contractors. That's how TNT got around, and Turner got around, having to unionize WCW wrestlers. So,
that was back in the 80s, though. People have changed their minds a lot since then.
They've changed their minds, but not the laws. The laws haven't changed to match that. That's the issue. So that's the biggest problem. Is you could say all you want, but if a company continues to choose to do that because legally they are allowed, then that's what they'll do. So that's so PR wise, it would look great that we're going to let these guys be a part of the Screen Actors Guild and et cetera, et cetera. But the question becomes now, you have an influx of WWE has 200 wrestlers under contract, that are trying to see some sort of TV time. How do you determine, like, if a wrestler gets signed, but they haven't made TV yet, in a sense, are they a part of the Screen Actors Guild? Because part of it is you have to be on screen for a certain thing, and then you have to say so many lines, et cetera, et cetera. There's all these criteria. How would a wrestler meet those criteria? And of course, SAG isn't pushing for it because they're not, it doesn't affect them. It's less people that are going to be in SAG that they're having to pay for and take care of. So, to me, and of course, they don't see wrestlers as actors. It's like, that's lowbrow entertainment. We're not going to want to cover them. So, you have SAG not caring, and you have companies who will be like, well, we'll just keep them as independent contractors. That's the whole purpose of it. Whereas I think, like James, in England, it's different. Like, if you're an actor or whatever, aren't you immediately considered part of like the guild or something over there?
If we're in the union, it's equity, so that covers your sort of like insurance. That helps you cover insurance, make sure you're getting the right pay, things like that. Similar thing to the Screen Actors Guild. That's the big thing. It's like it just protects you as an actor, as a performer, and the things that you like. Just stops people from taking advantage. Basically, stops you from going through what WWE talents are going through right now, and the most straightforward of ways. Because they cover so many different angles, and you've got that many that many representatives that work with the company, and now you've got big names that can stick out. Now it's easier to kind of flag things up if something's not kosher,
right?
Whereas the way it is with WWE just now, as we say, it's been very carny. They work in a particular way. They sort of rig the system a little bit because they're not treating them as performers. I know that Sonic the Hedgerat was saying that they're technically actors, and that's true. That is very true. But the initial, is the initial part when they started in the 80s. For the longest time, up until we got to Madison Square Garden for WrestleMania, legally, the courts were under the impression that this is real. I'm not saying they knew it was real, but they appreciated it as a sport and what it was. It was only when Vince McMahon came in and said, this is actually entertainment.
But sports entertainment.
But sports entertainment, yeah. So that means it got into Madison Square Garden and things like that. So
for a reduced tax rate, that was the whole purpose for a reduced tax rate, and to try to get around some of the commissions things, which they didn't.
Yeah, that was the Athletic Commission.
Yeah.
For the longest time, they had to have the Athletic Commission still show up to events. That's why it was. I don't think it was that long ago that like independent shows stopped having people come down to see them.
Yeah, because that's why I think Alex Arroyo from the NFO, he's a doctor, and sometimes he's required to go to he goes to the WWE shows because he can pull it. But like you go to some of the shows, you're required to have in New York an ambulance on site, a doctor on site from a third party. You're not allowed, and you have to pay for those people outside of they're part of if they have a fee for being there for so long, and you have to pay them out of what you make that night.
Yeah.
So, and that's the whole purpose, even though they still try to, I think it's a reduced rate now because they're not considered sport per se, they're sports entertainment. But like, for example, though, James, like what's it like what does it take for someone in England to be considered part of the guild? Like, you know, I mean, I know you're an actor, so you're technically part of the guild, right? You know,
no, not anymore. I'm not gonna have a membership with equity just now, but you can get one. So your equity membership is based on being a working professional actor at the moment. So I'm not really working too much in theatre at the moment, but hopefully all down the line. But you have to have worked a certain amount of shows with certain companies and been paid a certain amount as well. That's a weird thing. It's like you can work professionally, but unless you've been making equity minimum, then they don't count it as a job that you get. Yeah. So that's kind of what that leads into, is that if you're proving that you're part of the industry, basically. So if you're showing that you're active and you're working, you're more likely to get an application put through and you can join the union for that there, which is useful if you're working regularly. If you're only working like odd now and again, maybe not so much, but it makes negotiating harder. Whereas if you've got an equity member and you're trying to negotiate a better fee, you can bring in someone from the union to represent you and then say, look, you can't pay under this certain amount, you got to pay them this much, you're working this. So a lot of it comes into money rather than anything else. But as I say, the insurance side of things and keeping sure that you're healthy and when you're doing performances, things like that, that's a good thing as well. Gotcha. But a lot of actors would tell you it's like if you want to get paid your right amount, you would join equity for that there. But you're kind of spot on there. It's the way it works gives you a bit more leeway. It gives you a bit more opportunity to stand your ground and defend yourself. Whereas, so if something, I don't know, like for an example, like WWE, they release talents all the time. So if you were doing a tour for however long, and then out of nowhere they were like, "We're having to cut you, budget cuts," you could be like, "Hold the fuck on, that's bullshit. You've signed on a contract for a certain amount of time, and you can chase that up with the union." Whereas right now, they release you. You can't really. There's not really any legal discourse. They give you your 90-day release clause, and then that's you. You're into the wilderness. So it gives you a little bit more kind of power and strength, and that's partly maybe why they don't want to have a union as well, because it's a small part of the bigger cogs. But something like that, where it's like WWE would have to fork out the rest of their contract to release them, it's not something I would want to do. So
right, well, the WWE puts language in their contracts that they probably never even read that prevents them from doing all kinds of things, and they just sign it because what else are they going to do? Here's your contract, and then you read it in front of them like, oh, I don't like this. You know what? I'll take my challenge to Impact. Of course not. So, and just on the athletic commission thing, real quick before I forget about it, because it varies from state to state. Some states actually require you to still be licensed to wrestle in that state. So even though they know, you know what I mean? Like I had to apply for a wrestling license, but the commission is the same that commissions pro boxers, you know? Yeah. So like all you have to do basically is saying, yes, you fill out the application. I don't think they turn people down. They just like, okay, you're licensed now, but it still varies. And that's, because they had more shows that they wanted to run in their home territory states and whatever, and to get around those type of things, that's where it started. But you still need certain places still require you to have one, which is kind of ridiculous at this point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I mean, of course, everything is just moving as it goes. We're learning new things. Apparently, Jeff Jarrett is now a part of the WWE, and he's like a vice president of live events. So I mean, stuff is like just moving with the story all the time, and you have to wonder, like for him, what did I step into? I just got announced as being vice president of live events, and now Vince is being under investigation. Stephanie's the CEO. Honestly, it's one of those things where you have to wonder for job security, even, what could happen at this point. Because who knows? I mean, like I said, we thought there was insider trading with Kevin Dunn. Story just came out that it isn't because of certain things, but it's something that's going to be a long-term effect. I think that we have to, we can speculate all we want, but really it's going to be a long-term story that is just going to continue to unveil and open as we go forward. But then the question becomes, what will be reported? Is this like the big thing now where we hear everything and it sounds shocking and titillating and all this stuff, and then 6 months down the road we're like, hey, whatever happened to that Vince McMahon thing?
That's what it's going to be. It won't even take 6 months.
Yeah, it'll be like, oh, what's going on with it? What happened to that? Whatever. So that's where it becomes a thing of, hey, we're talking about all this now, but down the road it might not be anything at all because we don't, who knows what happens and reporting goes from here. So but I think with that, we have that. We had supposedly Sasha Banks is being released.
Yeah.
Did anybody get surprised by this?
Nah, I think it was only a matter of time. It was
Did they put out the statement that says we have come to terms on the release of?
They have not.
No, but the story,
well, then she's not released.
Yeah. I think someone put a story out and made that the case. Although I can't remember who it was, but they came out and said that if this isn't real, I'm giving up the Scoops business. I'm like, ooh,
yeah,
big.
So no one's going to remember that they said that, and you don't even know who said it right now. So
yeah,
that shows you how much that piece of info is worth.
Again, totally. It's like it goes back to the idea of wrestling journalism is not journalism. It just people throw that stuff out there. It just goes, all right, well. But we would do a disservice by not saying at least something that supposedly, allegedly, has been reported that it's out there. Shit.
It's definitely something that will play out over the next few weeks.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
But now things have changed, sort of in that sort of sense. Maybe things change. Maybe minds change on whether they want to stay in the company or not. We don't know what happens with John Laurinaitis. We don't know what's going to happen with talent relations. You maybe make a case if Vince decides, you know what, actually, we'll just take a break from creative for a while. Maybe that changes a few minds. So you don't really know until
there's no way Vince steps away from creative.
No, I think you're gonna have to drag him. You're gonna have to drag him kicking and screaming, really, to get that to happen. For that,
there's no way.
Things get. Yeah,
he will. Hold on to that to the dying grave, to whatever it is he needs to hang on to. He will not lose creative. That is just that's just Vince. Even though, like I said, is he the best at it? No. Does somebody probably need to be doing it that is not him? Yes, but we're not going to get that because he chooses not to do so. So, it's just been an interesting week. Of course, we had Jeff Hardy getting arrested for, which, by the way, now how little does that story seem compared to what happened in the back half of the week? With Jeff Hardy being arrested for what a 289,
295 or something like that,
or 295, breathalyzer, and
unbelievable.
And granted, I understand addiction. Everybody on my dad's side of the family was an alcoholic, except for my dad. Grandfather, grandmother. I remember, my dad would call my grandfather, "Hey, we're in town. We got the kids. If you want to see me, you need to sober up." Nah, I'll wait till next time. My grandmother not being sober for my sisters, but if I would have come over, she would sober up, but my sister's telling stories of her being drunk as a skunk and yelling and screaming and throwing shit. And, it's just kind of one of those things of aunts and uncles who were all alcoholics. I get that, there is something that is out of your control, but until you're ready to make that change, you're going to continue to be the same person. Granted, I never said anything because, it's not my place. But when it was WrestleMania weekend and we're at the hotel and you see Jeff Hardy walking around with people because he can't stand up straight half the time, you definitely notice, because, and this was WrestleMania weekend. So, watching him leave the bar and have two people on each side of him as he walks to go wherever he was going, who knows? And you have to feel for the guy, at least, in the fact that, yes, this thing has him so hard that he can't make a proper decision. Now, does it excuse the fact that he made a stupid choice? No, it doesn't excuse that fact. But he's obviously not ready to face his addiction and to get help for it. Because if he did, he would. But, the supposedly refusing help from WWE, Tony Khan's statement now saying that he's suspended without pay until he gets treatment. But what if he doesn't want treatment? The guy decides, I just want to do my music career, and travel and do music. What if he decides he wants to do that and he still doesn't get help for himself? It's one of those things where could this thing be so self-destructive that he's down a rabbit hole that he's not going to be able to get out of? So, you
almost want it to play out that he goes and gets his help, and then once he comes back and does the ends the suspension, that he just stops wrestling. Because that's a big part of the problem as well. Like, he does all these crazy stunts off of high things, the ladders, like that match with Darby Allin with the chairs and stuff. That was ridiculous. You know, and you can see it's only been a couple of months and it's completely taken its toll on him. Like, he's killing himself. And so that plays into it a little bit. So once you have like that fuel, you need to get rid of it. As you say, it's like once you deal with one problem, that let's get the next one sorted out. It's easy when you've not got the distraction of wrestling or putting your body through like a toll or anything like that. You're more, I'd imagine, you'd be more likely to spend more time looking after your mental state, how much your alcoholism, try and clean yourself up and get yourself healthy. So when you go back to wrestling, maybe there's a perspective of, you know what, the damage that caused me by medicating from injuries, and it has to be that. There's no other explanation for why he does it so much, is to medicate yourself to get through whatever you're being asked to do at AEW or what you're deciding you want to do. And maybe that's part of his addiction problems. Maybe he's got an addiction to doing all these crazy stunts and all these wild things. And now that he's off the leash, he can do it as often as he wants. And maybe we're not giving WWE as much credit for holding him back so much, because they could have easily done the same thing. They could have got him to do that, but they put him in simple singles matches, simple feuds, didn't make him do any high spots. And when they did, they made sure everything was right for him. You know, the right conditions, as safe as possible. Not to say it's the safest thing, but you know, all of that. So, you know, in hindsight, maybe him leaving WWE and telling him where to go that way wasn't the best thing to do.
Right.
It wasn't the wisest thing to do whatsoever. And I remember we were talking about this when it happened, when he left and everything. And I said it to him, I said it to you, it was like, how can you help someone that's not willing to help themselves?
Right.
And it's exactly what's playing out here. Like, once you heard the stories about the Hall of Fame and then the drug test results, we were able to start taking it at face value. But, you know, now it's starting to peel away. Now layers are coming off. We're starting to see what's actually going on with him. The point where you said when he got picked up, he was going for a brain scan. Like, yeah. So he was actually going to go to the doctors for a brain scan.
You think? You think? I think that was an excuse.
I hope it is an excuse, but at the same time, it's like part of me is like, I couldn't put it past him. Like, I genuinely couldn't put it past him that he's booked it. Or maybe the other thing I heard was like, maybe he's already had it, and he's just in that absolute smash that he maybe thinks he's going there, or as you say, he's using an excuse. It's pretty scary.
Yeah,
that he's just done that to himself.
Yeah, and I mean, he was already on a suspended license. You know, I mean, there's, but yet he still chose to get behind the wheel of a car. I mean, like Leslie said, and I've talked about somebody else with this. Given his track record, you know, he doesn't look like he's going to stop until he kills himself or someone else. I mean, I don't know about you, but Vet, like being a wrestler, have you seen guys wrestle in the ring that almost felt like they had a death wish in the ring? Like, that's how I feel when I watch Jeff Hardy wrestle. I feel like he's not going to be content until he does something to where he hurts himself or kills himself in the ring. Have you seen anybody like that? Is that a mentality? I mean, to me, that's a counter mentality of what wrestling should be. But I'm just wondering if you've ever come across something like that, you know, as you know, having been in the business. Not
really, because the people that were at my level were still learning. They weren't even allowed to have a death wish yet. You know. But
yeah,
but I mean, I think with Jeff, it started when he was younger as part of the adrenaline junkie thing, and the adrenaline wears off at some point, and then you start to hurt.
Yeah.
So, but that's where it starts, and then when you make your name off of that, that's all you can do, because that's what people expect. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's just. It happened to other people that, you know, don't have the same issues. Like, for example, Mick Foley thought that he needed to do things like that, take bumps like that, because he wasn't that good, even though he was great on the mic and he could work if he wanted to. But to set himself apart, he took those bumps, and it wasn't until way later in life that he figured out, oh, I just need a sock puppet. But that's what got him to that point. Mm-hmm. So Jeff doesn't have a sock puppet. Jeff doesn't have charisma. Jeff can't work. All he can do is climb up something and fall off it. I mean, HMG's probably tired of hearing me talk about Jeff Hardy because I've made my feelings very, very clear across multiple shows what I think of Jeff Hardy. The only thing I have left to say at this point is, like to Liz's point, given his track record, it's not going to stop. Mm-hmm. So I suggest that maybe the only thing to do is throw the book at Jeff Hardy and lock him up. Yeah. And then if he wants to enjoy alcohol, then he can have a nice pruno while he's getting fucked in the butt.
Yep.
Yeah. So do you feel like this is like, do you feel like as an owner or a business owner, like Tony Khan is a little bit at fault here for hiring him, knowing this track record? Or do you just say you get what you get and you deal with the consequences afterwards?
Yeah, probably that. If you're a promoter, you're signing the name, and then you figure you just deal with whatever later. Mm-hmm. And but I'm just saying, like, everybody's a little bit at fault. Mm-hmm. I mean, Jeff Hardy's 100% at fault, but everybody from every promoter that Jeff's ever worked for, everybody else that never refused to work with Jeff Hardy, anybody that's ever enabled Jeff Hardy in any way, including all of his family, his dog that died in a fire because of him, his dog's at fault for sticking by him instead of leaving him. Everything, everybody that's ever come in contact with Jeff Hardy in any form is at least a little tiny bit at fault. Yeah. But I mean, what else would you do in that situation? You have a Jeff Hardy available. You're like, well, this will be different now. Tony Khan probably is a kind of a guy that wants to see the best in people and may not have it's also obvious that he may not have a grasp of how the real world situation is as opposed to idealism. A lot of people have that problem. But I mean, come on, at this point, Jake the Snake Roberts is more sober than Jeff Hardy's been. So
sure.
Let's stop making excuses for him and just lock him up. Yeah. I hope he's found. I hope at some point he does something that he can't get out of, and then he has to just go to prison and spend the rest of his life there.
Right, but I mean, if isn't that, aren't we saying though that with that instance that would be the loss of life for somebody like that? Maybe for that to happen, it seems like it because I mean this is a pretty bad stop as far as DUI goes and the amount of DUIs he's had. And yet he's still not going to jail. He's still not, whatever.
Even simply him not driving cars. Because if you want to drink yourself to death, that's fine. Go ahead and do it. But you don't have to drive to do that. Yeah. You can have somebody else drive you and drink. What? It's just the fact that he refuses not to drive. Why would Jeff Hardy need to drive anywhere?
Right.
If everybody loves, even if you don't bro, call up a Mark to give you a ride.
Yeah.
Everybody else is enabling him in every other way. Why don't they just offer to be his chauffeur?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Can we get a limo service to sponsor Jeff Hardy? What? I just don't understand why he needs at 45 years old or whatever he is. I don't know why he needs to drive a fucking car. Yeah. What is the need to drive a car? Is that part of the adrenaline junkie thing? Oh man, it's extreme if I'm drunk driving. Mm-hmm. Get the fuck out of here. There's no excuse for this whatsoever. And like I said, I'm tired of it. I'm sure everybody else is tired of hearing me talk about it.
Well, I mean, it becomes this point where you go, when's enough? And I think that's the problem. Is we're seeing all this and we've seen it before, we're seeing it again, but yet nothing changes. And I think it's a small dichotomy of what we're going through in life in general, with our governments and with things that we're dealing with. It's like, when's enough? When's change going to happen? We keep seeing the same things over and over again and nothing changes. And of course that happens with the rich and powerful. We're seeing that they get caught with their hand in the cookie jar and, it's no big deal. But if it was somebody like you or I, we'd be going to prison for 40 years. That's I think the thing that really frustrates people in general is that you're not seeing justice equally distributed, which is a sad part of just life in general. That justice isn't blind. Justice is well aware of the smell of money. and the smell of money has an impact on justice, and that's the sad part about it. So,
oh yeah, and what if Jeff Hardy wasn't white?
Well, I mean, look at Jimmy.
If Jeff Hardy wasn't white, then he would have been excommunicated from the business when they gave those chair shots to Brock Lesnar back in 2002.
Yeah.
You never would have seen Jeff Hardy again. They'd be like, you can't hit our Aryan Superman like that. You're fired. And we never would have heard his name again. But
And on that note, I'm going to take my bow, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Get to talk about everything but SmackDown.
Yeah, I know. Sorry,
It's so cool. You sound pretty good to me, buddy.
Yeah, I know.
You sound pretty good to me.
Don't push. Well, I'll give a quick sort of round up what I thought about that. Vince's promo was weird. Madcap Moss and Baron Corbin, but
Why?
Pat McAfee, it was a waste of time, wasn't it? But we finished that off, tied a bow on it. Pat McAfee was the man of the match for me because that was an incredible promo to get someone like laugh at Baron Corbin. I mean, it's not exactly hard, but he done such a great job with that. Money in the Bank qualification, at least we're getting something to push forward to next weekend. God almighty, it's felt like a long slog to get to Money in the Bank. Natalia's promo was a bit weird as well, sort of like trying to humble Rousey with the sharpshooter. And then the main event, I can't really remember too much because I'm getting my head spinning a little bit, but the main event was all right. Brock Lesnar coming out, that was me scunnered. I was like, I don't want this again. I really don't want to see Brock Lesnar come out and wrestle Roman Reigns at SummerSlam when we all know the result's going to be the same as it was at WrestleMania. And I don't know, maybe I was wanting a bit more variety coming into SummerSlam this year rather than retreading old steps from WrestleMania and things like that. But I suppose you got to get somewhere to get to Clash at the Castle because we booked ourselves at the corner with Drew McIntyre. It's going to be a rainy day in Cardiff, just throwing that out there. If it's sunny, I'm glad to be wrong, but it's probably going to be raining and it's going to be miserable because Drew McIntyre is going to lose to Roman Reigns in September. But so that was just kind of my very, very quaint points on SmackDown. There's a lot more, but James is sick because of SmackDown. Is it catching? I wish it was, mate. I really wish it was.
SmackDown flu.
It's the SmackDown
flu, right?
The SmackDown's SARS. Right, I can't. I'm trying to think of another word for virus, but I can't do it. SmackDown SARS. There we go. That'll do. Bit intense, but that's a bit much. But thanks again, though, guys. Thanks. Hope it goes well. Just blitz through it. Like it was a great SmackDown. It was a bit of a dud show, apart from Vince wasting our time coming out. And then main event, we all know.
He's not even going to watch us, John. He's going to turn this off and just go to bed.
I'm just going to be. I'm literally just going to close my eyes and sleep because I'm just like.
Look at him selling.
Yeah, look at it.
Baby face.
I know.
You're not a baby face, James. You're a heel. God. You're a dirty heel.
You're just
a foreign menace.
You're just hungover from last week's party still. That's all you are.
Oh yeah, my dad's 60th. Yeah, that was the other thing. It was my dad turned 60 last week. And that
couldn't even bother to jump on the show then and do a quick hey, what's going on? Unlike somebody who was at a fucking car show and still popped on and said,
I mean,
hey.
it would be weird to kind of sit in on mom and dad's couch being like, hey guys, watching the Great North Run.
Hey, get mom and dad involved.
Yeah, hey mom and dad, you want to be on a podcast?
Yeah, there you go.
They probably tell me where to go. Get fucked. All right, anyways.
That's Ray's gold. That's all we need. Are you kidding
Shut
me?
It. Oh, sorry.
All right.
Enjoy the rest of the show, guys. Take care of yourselves. Thank you, chat. Been an absolute pleasure. I'll be back next week, hopefully, if I'm not dead. I'll be alive. I'll be fine. Don't worry. I'll make it back somehow. I'll just be on Lemsip for the next 5 days. It'll be great. Right. Peace out, gents. See you later.
All right, later, my friend. Take care.
Bye-bye.
So long. Farewell. All right. And then he leaves us with Smackdown.
Well, there is good news. There is good news, John.
What's that?
I lied. There's nothing.
There's no good news.
Let's just do this.
Okay. All right. We talked about Vince McMahon. It was shit. We talked. Then we get a recap of Randy Orton and Riddle, and then Riddle does his promo, and
My God, can I just say, before anybody said anything of even remotely approaching substance, 9 minutes had been gone from the show. Mm-hmm. It took all the time for Vince to walk out. Half the people were booing, half the people were cheering. I guess half the people knew what was going on in the world and half the people didn't. And then they showed that long ass recap, and Riddle just said a bunch of this is the most childish thing I've ever heard, maybe ever in a promo.
Yeah.
Like if Riddle was 8 years old, this promo would have made sense. He acted like he was talking about, you know, like just like some kid trying to please his parents or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about.
It was awful. It was awful. It was like, you know, you've met your favorite superstar, and he was like one of these Make-A-Wish kids who got to meet their superstar. And it's like how great it was, and then you know, I'm going, oh my god, really? Like, just suck his dick and be over with it at this point. You know, it's the worst. Apparently, breaking news and Liv Elizabeth, Dave Hebner apparently has died. So you know.
Yeah, I think it happened yesterday or the day before.
Okay.
I heard. Yeah, Dave Hebner, one of the twin referees. He was the one that was wasn't he at WWF first, and then Earl came from NWA.
Yeah, because they did
like
the twin magic kind of thing for the Hogan, Andre, or whatever they did there. But Dave was in WWE first, and then they got him to come in with Earl later. They got Earl later. So, you know, good referee. Just, you know, everybody dies, as Lance Archer says.
Leave it to Lance Archer to soften the blow.
Right.
Yeah, but so what were we saying? Oh yeah, Rip. You were saying how he's about to die because he's a Make-A-Wish kid, and this is his last wish was to be
with Randy.
Friends with Randy Orton.
And then he got to play Randy Orton's voices music, and it was so great. And
that was embarrassing. I'm embarrassed.
It's you know, equated to like, you know, you're on a baseball team and you have a superstar and you're just gushing over that guy. You know. It was just the worst. It was so dumb. I don't know. I don't want to talk about anymore. Stupid.
There's a difference, and we're moving on. Trust me.
Right.
But what I'm about to say applies to everything on this show and everything that the WWE's been doing for the past however many years. There's a huge difference between creating a product that is appropriate for children and a product that sounds like children came up with it.
Yeah.
Like the mental capacity of whoever wrote this promo for Riddle. It really is like one of the writers asked one of their kids to do this. Like, I'm too busy. Can you write this promo for Matt Riddle for me?
Yeah.
And then they just did what like a child would do.
Right.
And there's no... Yeah, it's Buckshot Kiss. It seemed like Randy died with that promo.
Right, yeah.
For your memory, Randy. But even in what he was saying, he didn't say anything funny, good, cool, that made sense. Mm-mm. Like, I just don't... I can't say enough bad things about it, but this is just a problem in general. Like, you know, just because you're not super edgy and violent and sexual and all this stuff doesn't mean you can't have a show that is okay for kids to watch, but adults will enjoy. You know, that's what Disney Pixar makes the entire industry out of. They put out, you know, movies, they put out series, they put out things that are geared for like a family to watch. And then, but the parents never feel like they're getting dragged to it. We like superheroes. We like, you know, whatever, you know, Encanto or whatever. Like we like all that stuff, but I'm just saying, like, it's different when you have, when you're specifically writing towards, even a child, I think, would be insulted by this.
Yeah.
They may not just be developed enough to realize, hey, wait a minute. Riddle I like Riddle, but he just wandered out there and rambled for 5 minutes and didn't say anything.
Yeah.
He's just killing time. It's the essential. It's almost like they, you know, go kill time. And that's what happened. And that's why they use the recaps. They kill time with the recaps too.
Yeah. Again, I mean, if we had your wrestling bingo, I think we would probably have done a blackout based off of what you told last week, because I think everything you said, it's almost like they listened and said, hey, that's a good idea. We'll take everything the vet said and we'll put it on this show. And it was pretty much that. We almost had a blackout on bingo last night from all the shit you said from last week. That was just like, this is a bad show. You know, but then we have this last laugh match between Corbin and Riddle, or Corbin and Moss, and it was again like, wasn't this dead at the pay-per-view? No,
yes. Well, it was dead before it started, but it was dead on arrival, is what it was.
It was, but like you would have think it should have stopped at the pay-per-view, but nah, let's get one more and we'll have a last laugh match, and which nobody knew what the stipulation was. They didn't understand what it was because it was like, okay, we just have a singles match. Madcap Moss with 2 punchlines, which there's like, it looks like a Russian leg sweep, but with a swinging neckbreaker. Is that what his finisher is? I mean,
it's like, you remember when EC3 does the 1%er?
Yeah,
it's kind of like that, except it's back. Except the guy's backwards and his head is over the shoulder instead of under the shoulder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It looks weird. I don't understand that finisher. It's dumb. But then so then the match is over. Then you have Moss pick up the mic and laugh, and like, okay, that was whatever. And then, you know, they come back, do some other things, and then Corbin hasn't left yet. And so then Corbin picks up the mic and starts talking to Pat McAfee how Pat McAfee's the problem because he called him bum ass Corbin and da 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 da. And so, are we going to be using, when we don't know what to do with a guy to get heat and to get a match and build up, we're going to be using McAfee now to do matches and build up stuff? Because like, this is almost like a setup. Hey, we're going to have Corbin go against Pat McAfee now. And, you know, Pat McAfee gets on the mic. He has granted, on the mic was great. He did a great job of kind of like, you know, making it sell and, you know, getting everybody to laugh at him and leave. And then New Day comes out as he's leaving and they're laughing at him too. But I mean, is that what we're going to do now? Like, we're going to, hey, Pat McAfee's a big deal, so let's have one of our guys challenge him per se and go from there, which why haven't
that's what we're going to do.
You know, but why have him as an announcer then? You know, why not put him on the roster as a wrestler? You know,
because you don't want to do it. Like they don't want to do that. They're not gonna have a guy like that as a full-time wrestler. He doesn't want to be a full-time wrestler. He wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to do whatever he wants. It's good enough for him to be in matches at all. Like, I'm sure his dreams are probably over. I don't think he cares if he has another match at this point, but he also probably wouldn't mind having other matches at this point because he gets to continue living his dream. That's really one of the issues I have with this whole creative is Baron Corbin doesn't need to wait until he's been beaten to death and he's not going to get any more chances at the guy that he's fighting with. If he had a problem with Pat McAfee, he could have said that immediately.
Right.
And you could have planted the seeds for this weeks ago and made it seem like the only reason that he couldn't get at McAfee is because he was still involved with Moss for whatever reason. But instead, you just wait, you just get beat in a match, clean, easy, didn't even take that long. Baron Corbin's basically useless now. Yeah. So now it looks like you're really what it looks like for Corbin is, well, I can't even beat wrestlers anymore, so I can't even beat joke wrestlers anymore. So now I have to challenge the announcers. And fair enough, because I don't know what McAfee's deal is, but like the way he's dressed, he kind of looks like this is like wearing a blazer with like a V-neck and a gold necklace. It's like something B. Arthur would have worn on the Golden Girls. Right. So like that's pretty funny, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you should have what you consider to be, I don't know, do they consider him a top heel? Even so, is it to the point now where he's punching that far down that he's like, well, shit, I can beat an announcer at least. Right. I don't know.
Right, but that's the thing. He's not even a top.
The announcer anymore, who beat the current United States champion, but you feel like you got a shot. Right. You couldn't even beat the guy that in storyline you supposedly brought in just to tell jokes to you to entertain you. You lose to that guy in every conceivable fashion, and now you're going to take on the guy that beat the former United States champion or the current United States champion. And it just. Not that I care, but it makes Corbin look stupid. Yeah. Stupider than he already does.
Right. And I mean, it just diminishes him as a heel even further to where it's like you said now, it's like he's nothing at this point, which is, I mean, could he have been a good mid-card heel to maybe every now and then upper level heel to, to if we had a babyface champ to kind of challenge and then go away. Yeah, but you've just ruined him to this point to where he's nothing anymore. And we have because you're doing stupid shit like this. I mean, I would have been fine if he had just been in a neck brace and not have to come back out. Because I mean, he miraculously took Moss took the steel steps to the chair to hit him in the neck, but Moss was in a neck brace for a while after getting hit with the what was it, the trophy on the neck and got carted out. But yet it was only a week. Corbin got hit, and then he comes back with the steel steps and like, look, I'm fine. I don't need a neck brace. I'm totally good.
Yeah, nobody's getting hurt at all. None of this is real.
No. So, I mean, again, it's the only thing that saved this was McAfee, his announcing.
He didn't save it. He didn't save it, though. Just for the record, in case anybody wanted to read too far into what you were saying. Like, I know what your point is, but just trust me, if you didn't see this, he did not save it. It's still terrible.
Yeah, it's still terrible. It made it a little bit more palatable, like calling him Dominion, Jurassic World Dominion is going to be a banger, but is in fact not. I mean, it's just some of the little things that he does that I enjoy, on that to make it somewhat more palatable. But that was that. Then, like I said, as he's leaving, New Day comes out. Then we go to commercial again because apparently this is the new thing on SmackDown now. We introduce a person, we go to commercial, then we come back, and then we introduce the other person. We reintroduce the person and then introduce the other person because New Day comes out with the music as Corbin's leaving. Then we go to commercial. We come back, and they get their entrance music again, even though they're already in the ring. And now then we reintroduce them, and then we introduce Jinder and Shanky, which, dear God, like, this was... why again? Like, this was it felt so ridiculous. I mean, how do you win? You get Xavier to play the trombone, get Shaky to start dancing, and then Jinder tags in, and then Kofi hits Trouble in Paradise, and and they called him Coffee Kingston when they announced him. as Elizabeth pointed out last night.
We were all having a little fun with that on Twitter, but when I listened to the clip and when I listened to the show, it really didn't. It just sounded like she said Kofi Kingston. So I'll play along anyway. It's still funny, but still funny. I didn't hear it. Maybe this is like that Yanni and Laurel thing where people hear different things. So I just heard Kofi, but close enough. It was Coffee. He's Coffee Johnston now. That's his new name.
There we go. I think it was just accidents or whatever, but still, it was okay. Well, how we're gonna do this? Well, we're gonna distract Shaky because he's into dancing now, and so we have a 7-foot+ big man, but let's get him to dance, pal. That's the only
7-footer. The only 7-footer that looks halfway coordinated in the ring these days. Even though he looks like he shouldn't be, he looks like he can tie his shoes without bending over. But I think that has there been a wrestler in the last, or has there been at any point in the last 20 years, has the WWE had a wrestler on the or had no wrestlers on the roster that have to dance? Is my question.
No, I think they've always had somebody who has to dance.
There's always been somebody from a Funkasaurus to
Fandango.
Yeah, or that somebody has to dance, and that's 100% Vince McMahon.
Yeah,
Vince McMahon is entertained by dancing for whatever reason. Probably doesn't watch Dancing with the Stars. He probably just likes bad dancing from guys that don't dance.
Right.
So I don't know, but I don't really think this is the best use of Shanky. Funny to say that sentence. Didn't really think I would say that, but just it's bad. This is bad. This is as bad as it sounds. It might be worse. I feel bad for Shanky because it's like you could do something with that. Something.
And do you feel like he doesn't
this
know?
Ain't it.
Like he doesn't understand like what's happening? Like
no, he knows what's happening.
You think? I mean, because
think about it. Think about it, John. Just think about it. In any profession that you do, if you're in the middle, if you are just told to even if we just eliminate all other possibilities and just say you know, you're an arc welder, and then all of a sudden your boss is like, all right, now I want you to dance.
Right.
Like, you know how you're going to feel. Like, you don't have to weld anymore or anything like that. Just dance.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter how you feel about that in terms of your skills or abilities. It's going to be weird that that's what they want from you.
Right.
When you have a completely other skill set.
Sure.
So, yeah, he knows what's going on. He's very aware that this is weird, and for whatever reason, this is the kind of thing. Look, Sasha Banks, I understand her walking out, but people like Corbin and Shanky have much more reason to walk out.
Right.
The problem is they don't have the clout she has, so maybe they feel like they can't. But at some point, you still got to say, like, well, I've made my money. I could walk out.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, but I find it very interesting because, you have Shanky, you have this big guy, but then you look over at AEW and they have Satnam Singh and how they're treating that guy versus how they're treating Shanky, and, but I mean, like, I'm not saying Satnam Singh is the greatest, wrestler to ever show up. I mean, was he a Dallas Maverick for a cup of coffee? Yeah, he was. But it's the idea of the way they're presenting it, the way they're bringing him about. I just find it very interesting that dichotomy of two guys who are both very big, large Indian men. And yet what are we going to do with the Shanky? We're going to make him dance because, that's cool. But Satnam Singh, we're going to make look like a killer. And we're going to protect him. We're going to keep him from looking, stiff or anything in the ring. We're going to show what he can do and make him look very, very intimidating because he is a very large man. I mean, he's a very large, powerful man, for what he does. And so
wait a second here too. Like it sounds like for the people that don't know or don't follow or don't care, but who somehow listen to this show, let's just recap that this is like Shanky didn't just show up dancing.
No.
This is the third iteration of Shanky because he was with Veer at first.
Right.
Then he's rapping Shanky. Now he's dancing Shanky. So it's not like they just brought some giant out of nowhere to dance. At least if that's how we were introduced to him, we'd still be like, well, this is kind of stupid, but whatever. That's what they want to do. Instead, we're asking, well, this is stupid, and why do they want to do that when we've already seen this guy doing other things?
Right.
And don't say that he didn't get it over because they haven't even given any of them enough time to get over.
Right.
And then like you said, Singh on the other channel. I mean, I saw that match, that debut match he had. He looked good in there.
Yeah.
That was a perfect match. He didn't do much, didn't have to, shouldn't.
Yeah.
But whatever they did with him is perfect. They're really good at AEW about that first match or that first debut or something. After that is where they drop the ball because it seems like they only have one idea. But he's already got plenty of potential, probably more potential than he showed as an actual basketball player.
True.
So I like what I saw from him. And Shanky, like, I don't like the way the kid looks. He just has a weird look, like his face.
Yeah.
He looks young. He looks super young, but he tries to grow facial hair to hide it. But then that just makes you look like a child with facial hair, which is even weirder. Mm-hmm. So he's got a weird shaped body. Everything about him, it's like aesthetically, it's kind of unappealing. Mm-hmm. But just the way he moves around in the ring and the way he seems to be working compared to other guys that size, like he seems to have a lot of potential for in the ring stuff. So rather than develop that, they just focus on the comedy aspects, or comedy in quotes, what they think is funny, what entertains them, while everybody else is just like, okay, he likes to dance. What are we gonna, if they booed him out of the building, they wouldn't be booing him, they'd be booing the creative.
Right.
But instead the people kind of play along with it, because it's like, it's a group of people that came to sit in a building and watch wrestling that they knew was bad when they bought the tickets. And they're like, I guess I'm just going to cheer Shanky because what else am I going to do? I'm already here.
Right.
Yay, he's dancing. Yeah. Hey, all right. Like, what are you going to do?
Right. And I mean, like even Elizabeth said, look at what they're doing for Veer on Raw. I mean, it's, you had two guys who were on the same tag team, and obviously they see, different things for each guy. I mean, but again, I think I think comparing Veer and Shanky's different because Veer looks more like a wrestler. He looks more able to kind of handle the in-ring stuff. That's why I'm comparing Shanky to Satnam Singh, is because they're both very large, taller men. They both, even Satnam Singh, his body looks a little weird for wrestling. He has a weird shape to him as well.
But he's jacked.
But he has gotten jacked because he didn't look like that when he was here in Dallas. I'm going to tell you that right now. He has gotten jacked. But you have to also look
they
at
drug test in the NBA, John.
That's true, but you're right. Yeah. But it's also, you have to look at it as going, I think that's the better comparison of the two because they're both very similar in that aspect of height, size, weight, and what they're doing. And then you go, okay, very, one seems to know what to do with the guy and the other one doesn't, kind of thing. So, but that was that. I mean, it was an awful thing to have to put on our screens, and it wasn't very long. And then we had, oh my God, I forgot about this Drew and Sheamus promo, where basically Adam Pearce comes out and says both are going to be in the ring, but he says it to where, it's like Sheamus is going to be in the ring. Yay! Well, then Drew McIntyre starts beating the shit out of Sheamus and kicks him out of the ring. And then, because he has that ultra long pause that Adam Pearce does of Sheamus, you're going to be in Money in the Bank, and then just kind of sits there. And so then Drew McIntyre comes in and starts beating the shit out. Wait, what? You didn't let me finish. I was going to say Drew McIntyre is in there. It almost made it sound like I'm going to say Drew's going to be in the match because I don't want the chaos to happen again. I fucked up, so let me just say they're both in the match. It was like the dumbest because it was Sheamus is going to be in the ring, and that's it. And just kind of held it there. And then Sheamus started getting excited. And it's almost like they were waiting for Drew to do something. Dude, this was so awful. The timing was shit. And whoa, Drew McIntyre, you're in as well. Okay, fine. I'm gonna take my shirt off and I'm gonna stand with the shillelagh and mock Sheamus and
once again, filling time.
Yeah.
Because all they needed to say was that, earlier today, Adam Pearce decided that Sheamus and Drew McIntyre would both be in the Money in the Bank match, and then we could have just moved on. But instead, they have no content, so they have to drag out and make a mountain out of every little molehill, or maybe vice versa. I don't even know at this point. But there was probably a recap involving this, wasn't there?
I'm sure there was.
Didn't they have to catch us up on the saga of Drew and
last
Sheamus?
Week? There was. They had to show what happened last week, in the qualifying match, in order for us to understand of where we're at right now, because that was in a whole other city. Now we're in Minneapolis, Minnesota, so they surely don't know what's going on in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
They don't watch TV. They all bought tickets, but they don't watch.
Right, they don't watch TV at all. And so then after that we have this. Raquel Rodriguez versus Shayna Baszler match for Money in the Bank with Lacey Evans at commentary. And then, of course, backstage was Shotzi and Aaliyah, who they have their match next week, but they're standing next to each other, giving each other the evil eye and the awkward sideways look at watching TV as they're side glancing each other, but then doing that weird sideways looking at the TV to watch the match kind of thing. This was whatever. Again, I mean, I understand you're pushing Raquel Rodriguez, but could we have not sacrificed Shayna Baszler for that? Could we have found somebody else? Oh wait, we don't have anybody else.
Yeah, there's no one else.
But we couldn't have done like Aaliyah versus Raquel or Shotzi versus Raquel, and then Shayna Baszler versus whoever, and let Shayna Baszler just be. No, why would we do that? I'm sorry.
Well, Shayna Baszler's been dead for when did she come in the company?
I don't even remember at this point.
She came in hot.
Mm-hmm.
And then just
NXT. In NXT, she was hot.
Well, no, and even the first original call up when remember the Elimination Chamber, she tore through a lot of people and stuff. And then it just cooled off because, what do you expect? What do you think guys like Vince McMahon or John Laurinaitis, I wouldn't have sex with her.
Right.
Even if she wasn't a lesbian, I wouldn't have sex with her.
Right.
So fuck her. Wait, no, don't fuck her.
Yeah.
So it's like, that basically determines everybody's push. You can imagine if any woman gets a push at some point, it's probably because somebody decided, yeah, I guess I'd have sex with them.
You're right.
That's basically how the booking goes in the women's division. Sorry to put it like that. I don't think anybody should be, in any confusion about how things work there. And that's just even funnier in light of recent, events. But
Right.
But it's always been that way.
Right.
But even so, like maybe nobody did want to have sex with certain people, but due to injuries and walkouts, now you have to actually think about them as a credible talent and try to book them as such. I don't know, man. They don't think much of Shayna Baszler at this point, and having Ronda as a friend, I don't know if that does her any favors or if that's worse.
Right.
Because Ronda they have taken, somebody like me who's a fan of Ronda and just made me completely indifferent to her.
Right.
Which is that's a tall order.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all about the presentation. So I know that, and I know people are beating Ronda up for her performance on it, but look, Ronda was a wrestling fan. So imagine how we feel when we come on this podcast. James fucking left. He doesn't want to talk about this shit. Now imagine Ronda has to go in the building.
Right.
This company is a shell of itself compared to even the first time she was there, let alone what she grew up watching. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, you don't even have anybody good for me to work with.
Right.
You had me in there with Shotzi Blackheart.
Right.
Sorry. No offense to Shotzi. I like her, but it's Ronda needs help. Shotzi's the brains of that outfit. And I wouldn't want to give her that role. I'm not sure that's her strongest role, is as a mentor leader. So just imagine Ronda showing up every day. Of course she's going to phone it in. Right. Of course she is. Why should she put her best foot forward when there's nowhere for that foot to go? So I get it. I don't like it, but I get it.
Right.
I'm not saying I would do it if I were in her position. If I'm in an unenviable position, I always want to do my best regardless. Just for my own, at least I tried. Right. But every once in a while, man, you get beat down to a certain point and you realize it just doesn't matter what you do.
Right.
Sometimes, and especially in the WWE, sometimes trying just gets you heat.
Yeah.
So she should probably walk out.
Yeah.
She should walk out, hand the belt back, and be like, I'm done.
Yeah. I get it. I mean, it's to me, interesting. And then how they're trying to push Lacey as this, babyface. She's on the mic. Rodriguez wins. She's all excited and everything, which I found interesting, but I view it as a standpoint of she's excited because she feels like the right person won and is looking forward to that competition because Lacey Evans has never wrestled Raquel Rodriguez. So it's like you're getting a new match. And it almost feels, again, I've said this from the beginning, they're making Lacey the anti-Charlotte. Wants to wrestle with everybody, is looking forward to doing all these things, is positive. And it's almost the reverse of Charlotte per se, and how they're building her. And that's why she was out there and she was excited and she's willing to work with anybody and wrestle with anybody because she wants to prove how good she is and et cetera, et cetera. So I don't feel like she was a help on the commentary. She wasn't needed, but the reason for it was for the push to, have her on the mic and to have that push of this is Lacey Evans and this is what we're trying to do with her. I don't know about you, but I just feel like she was just a third wheel. She didn't bring anything to whatever they were supposed to be doing with her. So I don't know. That's just me.
It's funny that you make the Charlotte comparison because she could have been Charlotte's new mom.
Yeah,
she dodged that bullet.
Because she became a new mom. So
Yeah, at least it wasn't Flair's kid.
Right, exactly. So I guess then we come to the main event for the night, which I'm surprised that they started this a little after 8:30 and went as long as they did. You know, we did forget about Max Dupree. They did say he was supposed to have his maximum male models. Um, and they were gonna be there, and then he said, "No, the lighting's not right. This is despicable." To Adam Pearce, as he's all up in Adam Pearce's face, and said, "No, we're not doing this week." And I didn't care, really at all. I'm going, okay. Oh, that's right. You do that. You had Gunter cut a promo. I'm sorry, Walter. Fucking Walter.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ludwig.
Yeah.
All they could have him say, Walter say, is, "I'm the new Intercontinental Champion." Like, you realize this guy can talk better than Ludwig, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
I mean, and the way they did it, he looked at it as if he needed to look at it to go, "I'm the international."
He read the championship.
Yeah. Exactly.
He read it.
Yeah, he made it read it to make sure he said it right, kind of thing. Oh my god. And then doing the whole, we're European, so we're better. So we're gonna keep this away from Americans because they're dirty and American and everything that's wrong with wrestling and so dirty Americans are not going to touch this title ever again. I get it. We're going to go with foreigner heat. Oh, okay. How original. So I don't know.
I will say this. For what compared to everything else on this show, this seemed like the most brilliant piece of writing ever. And then as far as the Eli Drake thing, for what it's worth, he's always excellent. So even though this whole idea is stupid and the way they did it was stupid and everything about it's basically stupid, he's performing the hell out of it. So there's that at least.
Yeah, there is. And then, and so then we have the match. And I mean, shocker. Well, one thing that I was surprised that they didn't do was they didn't beat us over the head about Roman Reigns being there. We had the little mini Sami Zayn segment that turned into nothing, where he was supposed to go talk to Roman about, what happened last week, and nothing came from that at all. Shocker. And then they didn't hit us over the head that Roman Reigns was there. We didn't see him all the time or whatever. They did, and then they kind of, interestingly, I wondered if he was actually going to show up because it took him a minute to come out before everything happened. And I was like, is he not going to show up? And that would be a real heel move to be like, yeah, we're going to have this match and him not show up and something else happens and Sami Zayn does or says something, but no, he shows up, his first title defense since WrestleMania. So WrestleMania was what, April? And it's now June, and he's having his first title defense for the undisputed WWE Universal WWE, however they're saying it.
It seems like it gets longer every time.
Yeah, I know, right? This is like whatever. So
and it's still 2 belts.
Yeah.
I told you they were gonna make the Usos carry those 4 belts around.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the biggest rip of all, right? You having to carry those suckers around. But
let me enlighten some fans into like a little bit of insider stuff that people don't want to be the tag team champions. Like, they don't want that. They may think it was cool to just say that they've done it, but they don't want to be given those belts because they have to carry them all the time. It is a rib, and
right.
You don't get any sort of a raise for being the tag team champion.
Right.
Sometimes if you get like, if you become a champion in some other form, even though it's a fucking a kayfabe sport, but they still give people real pay raises, like as their champions. Like it is almost like a promotion,
right?
Except the tag team champions, you don't get shit. So, I don't think that the Usos at this point care if they're ever the tag team champions. It doesn't mean shit to them at this point.
Yeah, we did have,
but you're got to carry 2 belts each.
Yeah, you got to carry 2 belts each. And we did have the Street Profits say they want to challenge for the titles because they want the smoke.
They don't either. They don't want the smoke or the belts.
No, they don't. But I mean, I don't know how you felt about this match. I thought it was interesting how they tried to make Riddle believable that he could challenge Roman. But I mean,
he should have been believable. He should have been believable from day one. He should never be treated as a comedy character.
Yeah.
Even though he's good at it, he shouldn't be doing it because for exactly moments like this, when you're kind of pushed into a corner and you've literally cleaned out the roster and you have nobody else that you can use in this spot, but we all come in knowing he won't win.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that. If you thought he was going to win, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You just need to either watch more wrestling or quit watching wrestling, because either way, you're not cut out for it.
Yeah.
But I think this is how, if I can just relate everything back to New Japan for a moment.
Sure, go ahead, please.
Okay. Because I know that it's kind of a running joke, and I know people are just as sick of hearing me talk about New Japan as they are about hearing me talk about Jeff Hardy. But Dominion was this Sunday. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it, John.
Yes, I did.
Did you?
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
So Jay White and Kazuchika Okada put on a title match this weekend. It's probably one of the best matches that most people would ever see. We're used to seeing matches that good, but even among good matches, it was a really, really good match. It's extremely good.
I would say it's contender for match of the year.
Right.
I would say.
It's easily match of this year.
Yeah.
Easily. There's not even a close second this year so far. But a lot of what makes it great, even besides if you take out the two guys in the ring and what they did in the ring with their physical selves, okay, what you have left is you had the presentation of the show, the venue, the camera, the lighting, just the way they present this match to you. Now, granted, I know that this is one of their major shows, and what we're talking about tonight is a random Smackdown from the Target Center. It's not a go-home show. It's not even a post-pay-per-view show. Right. It's just a random Smackdown from Minneapolis, right?
Yeah, Minneapolis.
And
2 weeks away from Money in the Bank.
Yeah, not even 1 week.
Yeah.
Not even 2 days. Just random in the smack dab middle of everything. So I get that there's like a difference between the types of shows that are happening. But the build to Okada and Jay White, not just that specific match, but both guys individually, leaves a real doubt as to who's going to win the match. Like, you probably think Okada's going to win it and retain, but Jay White, the way he's booked, he could beat anybody. There's a lot of guys in New Japan that you feel could go over at any moment because they book their talents with that in mind. They think about the future. What if this guy one day, main event, champion, that. So they protect guys in those spots so that when they have big matches, the whole reason that we pay to see any sport of any kind, real, fake, whatever, we just want to know the answer to the question, who's going to win? Right. That's the only question we care about getting answered. Who's going to win? We watch because we want to find out. So that in mind, you don't really have any of that in this match that we're talking about on SmackDown. However, if you take Roman and Riddle, transplant them into the main event of Dominion, take Okada and White, put them in the main event of SmackDown last night, their match is going to not seem as good as it was at Dominion. Because you've still got the shitty WWE presentation, which is expensive but shitty, and you've got the announcers calling it, and you've got the booking of like just knowing like, well, this is a match on TV, no one's going to win this, right?
Right.
Now, if you put Roman and Riddle in the middle of Dominion in New Japan, all of a sudden this feels like a huge big time match.
Right.
Now it feels like something could happen. Now it feels like something epic. Now it feels like it's more important, right? So presentation is everything. And that's what the WWE used to be great at presenting you a spectacle. Now it feels like it's just the next thing. And as soon as this happens, we're going to move on. Don't worry, we'll recap it for you next time in case you didn't watch this time, which you probably
the next
didn't.
3 weeks. We'll
We'll constantly remind you, but still. So it feels like nothing matters here in the WWE. So even when these guys bust their ass and give you a good match, you and I are probably just like, it's a good match, I guess.
Yeah.
Because they make us feel like that.
Right. Yeah.
It's the same way if Okada and White were in that match, we'd be like, oh yeah, pretty good. Pretty good match. Because we'd have to listen to Michael Cole through the whole thing. So we'd be like, when's this going to be over? I know these are the 2 best wrestlers in the world, but God, can they finish this already?
Yeah.
So it's all about the presentation, man.
It really is. And by the way, Buckshot Kid, they're still New Japan doesn't mic crowds, and they don't. I don't think they're still allowed.
They're not allowed to cheer. Remember that
because of COVID still. So even though they're supposed to were cleared at Dominion, they found out that they're not, and so they're still not allowed to cheer.
And at the end in the match, in the post match promo, like Jay is like yelling at the crowd to make noise, and some of them do. Yeah, which is that might as well have been for the few people that yelled out in Osaka Joe Hall that night, that might as well have been like Austin coming down to beat up DX and get Mick Foley the WWF Championship.
Yeah.
Might as well have been that,
Same thing.
And as soon as they're allowed to make noise, they are, but they're still not supposed to. So that's why that happened. But the crowd was extremely into it. Yeah. You could hear them gasp at certain points.
And clap, they can still do the claps, and you can hear that. It's just you're not going to get the auditory like, oh my gosh, you're not going to get the cheering or the things because they're not allowed to yet. But I agree with you. It's that idea of when you watch New Japan and you watch WWE, you've been trained to expect certain things, and that I think that was the biggest difference between these two. It was a decent match, but again, we all knew what the end was going to be. Roman Reigns going 1, 2, 3, and there's still 10 minutes left on the timer when he hits his 1, 2, 3. I'm going, oh fuck, is he going to be on the mic for 10 minutes? And of course, forgetting that we're in Minnesota, which is Brock Lesnar's hometown, I did forget that. And so when he came out, I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense that Brock Lesnar would show up because it's, an hour from his farm. So yeah, sure, let's have him show up. And
because there's no one else to wrestle Roman Reigns.
Right, because
so Brock.
Which Roman says, I've defeated everybody, but
including Brock several times. But forget about that.
Including Brock several times.
But get excited anyway.
Yay! Well, of course he's gonna get the pop because this is his hometown. So yeah, and then he comes out saying as if he's gonna, showing him respect, and then he shakes his hand and gives him an F5, and F5's everybody. And Pat McAfee says it's the Twin Cities, but we're seeing triple F5s. Suplex City, bitch. Pat McAfee sometimes
unprofessional.
Yeah, that's what I love about Pat McAfee. He is unprofessional. He called when Roman does. Michael Cole called it Uranagi. He goes like, "Oh, it looks like the rock bottom," and because of course it's he's gonna go with the compliment. You're not gonna call it an Uranagi. He's gonna call it the rock bottom. Whereas Cole's trying to be professional. You have Pat McAfee being unprofessional, which I think is a great dichotomy. But you also, again, it goes back to it feels like Michael Cole has more joy when Pat McAfee is there and when they're working together. It makes, I think it really feels like it makes Michael Cole elevate his game to where he's tolerable now because you have Pat McAfee kind of challenging that professionalism with his unprofessionalism in that aspect. But like I said, at the end of the day, why did I care? And then Brock Lesnar comes back because it's Minnesota.
But do you care?
No, I really don't care.
He comes out. First of all, let's not overlook the fact that he comes out looking like a child's drawing of a cowboy.
Right. Exactly.
Like not even like a real cowboy.
Right.
But he just looks ridiculous wearing that hat.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like but everything about him else is like. His hairstyle and his beard and everything is still more more Viking Raiders than the Viking Raiders.
Right. Oh wait,
but they dress him like a cowboy. Oh yeah,
right.
another vignette for Viking Raiders. Yeah,
right. The same exact vignette that was played last week. Well, don't forget they're coming back, y'all. You know, a War Machine is coming back. You know,
yay! And they can wear cowboy hats and team up with Brock, and the WWE can bring in a trios title.
Yeah.
No, you're not into it. All right, all right, fine.
I mean, the problem is
I'm trying to shake things up, pal.
Well, the problem is it's WWE, so you kind of have to wonder how it would look like, what that would look like, other than intolerable, nonsense. So I don't know, but again, terrible SmackDown. I think again we regress.
The War Cowboys. Sorry, I'm just looking at Elizabeth's comment.
The War Cowboys. Hey, why not? You've done. I'd take that over fucking Viking Raiders.
Let's just do it.
Yeah, War Cowboys. But at the end of the day, I think again we thought last week's show was bad, but better than it has been. And then again we regress because apparently Vince ripped up the script so that he could present this and have him walk out and say, "Welcome to SmackDown," and then walk out. And
it's funny. Just because you said that, when I was trying to find the overnight ratings, I ended up at one of the things I clicked was on Ringside News or whatever. So,
right.
So that's already funny. But then if you look at like some of their headlines at the top, one of them said something like, Vince McMahon did not rip up the script at SmackDown today before. It's like that was one of their news stories. Vince didn't rip it up. Well, first of all, that's probably not even true, but it's just funny that they felt like that's a significant enough news item that we all know, to the point that is just as a matter of course what happens. Like Vince McMahon shows up for work, walks in the office, grabs the script, tears it up, probably doesn't even look at it, and then just starts writing. Like that's how that the news item is that he did not rip up the script this time, guys.
Right. Yeah. It was tolerable. They didn't. He didn't rip it up. Oh well.
Yeah.
I just find it. Again. I listen to some podcasts that talk about wrestling news, and it's just how funny what they quote unquote news is. They're just scrounging for anything. And again, it's not like they're looking for sources. They're just looking to be first. To break those things. And it's like, come on, guys, stop TMZing this. Just take your time, get your sources, and tell us something that we want to hear. Not that Vince McMahon didn't rip up the script. Let's find out some good, real things that would affect us as fans. But I guess it's asking too much for people to actually do their jobs and do the things that they're paid to do. So,
after that promo from Riddle to start the show, I kind of wish Vince had ripped up the script.
Yeah. Oh God, that was an awful. Again, it was just downhill from there. It really was. That promo and everything going from there. I just, I went to a friend's house and watched it last night because it was like, yeah, it was pretty good last week. You want to watch this? Okay, yeah, it sounded like it's a good show. And I literally had to apologize.
Now you have one less friend.
Yeah. No, thankfully I don't. Yeah, they're forgiving, but they're very nice and forgiving. But I was like, I am so sorry. That was like the worst thing I think I've seen in the last 6 months. It was awful. And so then we watched Rampage, which wasn't much better. So then I'm like,
it was much shorter.
It was a lot shorter.
And less recaps.
Yes, less recaps, less mic stuff. Just, all right,
that's the thing about AEW. Like, WWE and AEW are both bad in completely different ways.
Right.
AEW just doesn't know what to do, but they want to do something. WWE doesn't want to do anything, and they spend all of their creative passion trying to figure out ways to get out of doing things.
Yep.
Like, oh God, we can't really think about how to book people. Let's just, I don't know, like, can we have Riddle talk longer? I don't know. They avoid trying to even have a show.
Right.
One day they are going to just hand Fox a best of the first half of 2022 show like that. It's just gonna
it's coming.
We ain't doing it. Just show some highlights.
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, that's got to be the case, you know. But I mean, you get stuff like this, and you just have to wonder. Like, it almost feels like they're going out of their way to not produce a wrestling show. You know, I mean, it really does. It's hard to not see that and justify that. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Whereas AEW is more like you're watching it and you're like, oh, that's unfortunate. Well, what's next?
Yeah,
You know, like you're kind of into it even when it's not good. You're like, that sucked, but who's up next?
Right.
Is Keith Lee coming on?
Yeah.
So we'll see. You
yeah.
know, like you move on quickly. Everything in the WWE you've been conditioned to realize, like, there is no follow-up. There are no plans. This is going to be painful the entire time. It's like signing up for a weekly root canal. Like, there's not going to be no surprise. It's going to hurt. You know? So.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it will. But Elizabeth says she got a friend to go to a WWE live event. Honestly, I hear those are better than the TV shows because they're live events. They're not televised, so they kind of do what they want. It's kind of like its own little mini universe inside WWE, and it's more enjoyable. So, hey, if you have a chance to go to a live event, go do that because apparently they're a lot better than what's put on Raw or SmackDown. So, which is honestly a sad state to say that you get better shows from when there's not TV there.
Well, isn't it just because SmackDown is just a live event with recaps?
True.
I mean, they're not even trying to do much stuff out of the ring or whatever. It's mostly just matches still. But that's the thing. Like, the great equalizer about professional wrestling is being live. Because no matter where you go, if you sit in a chair and watch guys in a ring have matches, whether it's WWE, AEW, Impact, GCW, anywhere that you go, like, the experience is similar. You know, guys come out to entrance music, have a match, go back, the next guys come out. You don't have to hear the announcers. You don't really don't really have to watch the screen, you know, like, and try to, you're basically in an arena watching TV. You know, it seems like you're at a sporting event. Same thing with when you go to sports, go to a basketball game, go to a football game, go to a baseball game. You watch the sport, you watch the game you signed up to come and see. And then the game's over and you go home. Same thing with wrestling. It's like you got a card of matches, the matches are on, you go home. It's kind of what you expect. When you go to TV tapings and other things like that, it's a little different and more of a slog. But when you see the TV presentation, it's even worse because you have those commercial breaks and you have those weird recap packages and you have all this other stuff, which you also have to watch if you go to Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah.
So, but live events are much more fun because the guys get time and get to have some creativity in their matches, which is good for them too.
And unfortunately, she says it's going to be a Raw. Ugh. Dude, Elizabeth, I'm so sorry. That sucks.
Tell your friend she has time to back out. Then.
Right. She said she's trying to hold her to it.
Tell her you were drunk. You didn't mean it.
Yeah. I would say misery loves company, so hold her to it and be miserable together. But that's just me. You know. But again, like
that only works if you're both fans.
Well, it's true. It's true. You know, but I mean, you know, you like you said with AEW, yeah, there's stuff that's like shitty, but what's next? Because they know what's going on. And now with this whole Forbidden Door New Japan thing, I mean, we saw this week, you know, I don't think either show was necessarily great, but like you had the infusion of New Japan people coming in. You know, you have Lance Archer and Suzuki-gun now partnering with Jericho to, you know,
that was weird.
It was weird.
Not to turn this into a light the fuse, but just, you know, the Moxley and Tanahashi thing, I didn't feel like it was about to go great. But as soon as Jericho stepped into it, I was like, well, just like everything he touches, it's ruined now. Like, this is just completely bizarre. A bunch of stuff that had nothing to do with anything. Why wouldn't Suzuki-gun come out and have interfered in the original match with Jericho?
Right.
The hair match. Like, and why Desperado? No offense, I like him, but it doesn't make sense why he's there.
Right.
Is he the only one available?
Apparently,
I don't think so. Probably not.
Yeah,
so I didn't get it, but it's just weird how they, but their disasters can be entertaining to some people.
Right, and I think the reason why El Desperado is maybe not necessarily availability, but the visual that you get with the mask and the eyes and everything along those lines. It's very different than what I mean, other than Penta. But like in that situation, it's very different than everybody else in the ring. So he pops a lot more. And then of course Lance is part of AEW, but he's also 6'8", 275 pounds. So he's a massive man. But then somehow through all of that, they all get run out of the ring by Tanahashi and Jon Moxley because they're superhuman, apparently, and of course Tanahashi took his shirt off. So, there's always that as well. Who doesn't want to see that? No. But it's, but it's gotten to the point now, like Jericho was on such a high, but like, I'm getting to the point now where I don't care. I don't really care, that he's on TV anymore. I mean, I feel like the bottom's fallen out of it, and yet they're trying to save it in some way, shape, or form with everything going on with the whole, Sammy looking like Fuego and joining him, when they thought he left. And like you said, I didn't understand the Suzuki thing. Like, is it because Suzuki and Tanahashi have such a amnesty for each other that he's I don't know. It doesn't make it like you said.
It's not going to matter at Forbidden Door,
right? Because
Tanahashi's got a singles match.
Yeah, with Jon.
And now Jericho's just adopted Suzuki-gun into his appreciation society. Well, not all of them, just the two guys that are going to show up. Well, one of which already works there.
Yeah. Well, Suzuki is apparently wrestling with Jericho.
Yeah, did they say that? They said that. I didn't know if they misspoke or if he was really going to come over there. But.
No, he's at Forbidden. It was on the poster and everything. So it's Suzuki, Jericho, and I forget the third person. I think it was Lance, because Jericho and Lance are wrestling next Wednesday night together against Moxley and Tanahashi, if I remember correctly. What they announced, and so in a tag team match, and then. They're going to do a trios match because it's Wheeler Yuta, Eddie Kingston, and Shota Umino versus Jericho, Suzuki, and I want to say Lance, but at Forbidden Door in a trios match. So,
none of that makes sense.
I know. I didn't get it either. I'm just going, hey, at least Lance is on TV and he's going to be on pay-per-view. I'm good for my friend. Cool.
And he's in the G1.
Yeah, and he's in the G1. To me, this feels like, well, we're going to build up Lance because he's going over to the G1 here at the end of the month or whatever. So let's put him in some stuff so he's on American TV. So then when he goes back over, even though he has a fan base in Japan, I mean,
they know who he is.
They know who he is, and he's got a whole fan club that has his own Twitter account. But let's build him up anyway. Let's do that. Because we want to make sure they know who Lance Archer is in Japan. I don't know. It's just you have to wonder sometimes. Like,
no, what it really seems like to me is AEW is just like, well, we don't have anything for you for another month, so you can go do this.
Yeah, but I don't know. Which hey, I would rather see Lance in the G1 than keep not being on TV. That's right. Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Minoru Suzuki versus Eddie Kingston, Wheeler Yuta, and Shota Umino. That's the trios match for Forbidden Door. But then next Wednesday is Lance and Jericho versus I think Tanahashi and Moxley. So
at least nobody else has a story as lame as Kevin Owens right now, says Sonic the Hedgehog. You know what? I would be inclined to agree with you, except for one thing. If let's say the WWE was just running on all cylinders and everything was awesome, and if Kevin Owens with Ezekiel and all that is the worst thing the WWE had, then it'd be like, I mean, okay, that's acceptable,
right?
But it's not. It's like mid to top tier, the best thing they have,
right?
and that's terrible.
Yeah,
that's awful. That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
So that's the state we're in. But I don't know. We could just do an extra hour just talking about how bad everything in the world is, including and especially WWE. But I think we should probably just wrap it.
Yeah, we should just kill it right here. So, Vet, why don't you let the good people know where to find you on the internet, being it's so hard to find you, and we have no idea where it is.
Super hard.
It's super hard. But I mean, we all it's easy. But really, what I'd like for you to do is talk about your Twitch. What are you doing on? What's been your focus right now on Twitch? Because last time I talked, I don't think I'd mentioned that. Well, what have you been focusing on?
Well, last time it was. Let's see. Well, lately we just had the release on Thursday of the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge game, which is available on all platforms right now, and I was definitely checking that out the past couple days, doing some streams, showing off some Ninja Turtle gameplay, kicking some shell. It's a fun game. Anybody that's a fan of the old school brawlers, belt scrollers, whatever you want to call them, I would highly recommend checking it out. It's made by the people that made Streets of Rage 4, which was a good sort of sequel / reboot, reimagining, redo, remake, everything, and they put a lot of care into the Ninja Turtles world, pulling from the shows, the older video games, the cartoons, like the current cartoon, I guess, like that they shows on Nickelodeon somehow. Like they pull from all the sources, comic books, everything that the Ninja Turtles have been in. They have little nods, Easter eggs, and things like that. But even if you don't care about it, it's just a better version of all those games you used to play, like the Double Dragons, Final Fights.
Right. I love stuff. Final Fight. I am a huge Final Fight.
Well,
guy.
Then if you think Final Fight is fun, then John, you got to check out Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what I've been playing, and as soon as that's over, we'll see what's next after that. But that'll be my focus. Probably coming up this weekend, Monday, Tuesday. Probably see me on that, and then and that's going to be /Opinion Haver on Twitch TV. Of course, that's Opinion Haver everywhere else as well, because it really isn't that hard to find me. Whatever you enjoy, just type Opinion Haver in with it and see if I come up. You never know; I could surprise you.
Yeah.
So that's it for me, and then of course here on HMG, I've got the Next Level Wrestling review with Big Ray Hernandez every Wednesday at 8 Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, or you'll see me on the Impact Attack with Colin and Brandon every late Monday night, early Tuesday morning. And Slammiversary's coming up, so it's going to be a big episode. You can tune in to hear us talk about that. You find me doing shit on the side like this, I'll fill in for some people here, or just be a third wheel, whatever. I can be on the Smack Attack. You can also find me on the Pro Wrestling Coalition doing shows at the PWC. I did an episode of PWC Extra with Jimmy T. I know Destino's probably going to come back one of these days, and if you get me and Jargo together, oh boy, you want to talk about New Japan?
Yeah,
that's the place to do it. So, but I'm happy to work with all those guys, and it's really not that hard to find me when you put it like that, is it?
Yeah. If not, you're easily accessible, as they say. So you can find me on the most everywhere. He said he didn't give a specific time for the Impact Attack. Canada Spaceman.
Because it ain't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's whenever they decide to do it. Okay, Canada Spaceman. If you want to find me, you can go TikTok, Instagram, Twitter as Jay Reezy Men. And then, of course, Facebook is John Enright. If you need any help with any mental health issues or just looking for resources in your area, you can always email me, John at freedomhousepc.org. On that one, I will not talk wrestling or anything along those lines, just anything to help you with your mental health or any resources that you might need that are in your area. And then, that's really where you find me on that. You find me here every week on the Smack Attack. Because unlike James, I show up rain or shine unless I absolutely can't. Yeah. But then also you can find me on the affiliates channel for Hami Media Group on the Academy podcast. We have gone weekly, in case you didn't know. And you're missing out. 2 weeks ago, we had YouTuber Retro Badger on, and we had a really good 2-hour interview with him talking ships and
You're talking about the ships.
Yeah, of course. I mean, me, I'm a ship guy. So
who won the ship battle?
Well, Retro Badger just puts ships together, and so we talked about like his favorite ship. He's a Galaxy class guy, Enterprise D, because he grew up with Next Generation. So he's about my age, 37. So he grew up with Next Generation, so that's his favorite ship.
So that's their ship on Next Generation.
Yeah, yeah.
What would you say is canonically the most powerful ship, or the ship that would win all the death battles between a ship?
So, it's interesting. He does. So if you were looking at it canonically, you would have to say Enterprise J, which you saw in Enterprise, the series, because it's that universe class and humongous ship. It's in the 20 whatever century, way up there. You would think that would be the most powerful ship. But when you play it in Bridge Commander or not, it's not. It's actually the Enterprise F, which is the iteration after the E, which was the ship we saw in the movies. That Sovereign class, that really cool one. Well, they had one right after that called the F. And
where does that one show up?
It shows up on Star Trek Online. So, like, if you play the Star Trek Online, but the ship design that's on Star Trek Online is not the same as what's in Bridge Commander, because apparently, because of licensing reasons, they can't transport that to Bridge Commander. So you have the same power specs and everything, just a different kind of what do you call it? A different kind of ship design. That's not the same, but the specs and everything are the same. So it's actually the F that is the most powerful as far as enterprises go. They have other ships that they, like with modding and stuff, they do all kinds of crazy things to ships. Like they've got the most powerful one is they call the Galaxy class from hell. It's just this Galaxy class has just been amped up to have ridiculous shields. It has a phaser lance that just one-shots everything. It's got a...
All right, well, fan fiction doesn't count. We don't need to get into that BS.
But, like, really, if you're looking at canonically, it should be the J, but according to the game, it's the F, actually. Between the phasers, it has a multi-vector kind of fighting system where you can have the... what is it? They have what they call the Thunderbird, which is a mini fighter. You have the battle bridge on the back half, and then the saucer section, and all three are very, very powerful. So you can even go that route if you wanted to, and you're facing a pretty difficult enemy. You give them 3 targets to go after, and you can really pound them with that. So it's very interesting to watch that aspect of it. But he doesn't like to play the F, only to like see what other ships can do against it, because it's such a powerful ship. Like the thing about it is the phasers on that thing are ridiculously strong. So a lot of times it's your photon torpedoes that are taking the big chunks, but with the phasers on the F, it could take some pretty big chunks out of ships and their shields in that aspect. So it was a very interesting conversation. Like he did this as a COVID side gig, and now it's almost his regular gig when he doesn't work on computers. He gets off a computer, working on it, gets on a computer, plays video games. So, and then puts it on YouTube. And so it's a very interesting idea of what he did, of just taking this game where you can play all these ships and do these things. And, hey, I want to take this ship and put it against this ship and see which one comes out the best, And, of course, he does it as he'll play as one ship, like the Enterprise E versus the Galaxy class, just to see what they'll do. And then he'll switch and give the computer the other ship that he wasn't playing, just to see if it's the computer or is it the ship. So it's very interesting how he makes that work.
Well, if any of that made sense to you, then you'll love the Academy.
That's right. And we talk all kinds of stuff. The funniest part is I find news stories that just piss Triple D off and get him on crazy rants. Or I find stuff that he would buy that is like $500 or more, and he ends up buying it. So, yeah, no, there was a streak of like 4 shows in a row where he was buying shit because I was like, "Ooh, check this out," and he would be buying it. Like, I bought it. I'm like, all right, So I would do that kind of stuff. So we have a good time. Oh yeah, it's a great rib. Hey, I can't buy stuff, so I let him buy it and live through his buying of things. So we talk news, we talk all kinds of stuff, movies, TV shows, whatever. But you can always find us there, and it's a ton of fun. And a lot of the other affiliate shows in the Hobby Media Group. Then, of course, don't forget about Channel Attitude with Smack Attack and all the other shows that are behind that wall there. It's for less than a cup of coffee. You can enjoy, some of the great stuff that Hobby Media Group offers. So with that all said, and all the plugs and businesses out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, we end this show happily because that means we don't have to talk Smackdown for another week. But as always, Vet, it was a pleasure having you as on always. You bring a great dynamic to the show that we appreciate very much.
Thank you.
And, ladies and gentlemen in the chat, as always to you, we always appreciate you. You bring a great dynamic to the show as well. We appreciate your input and what you bring to it as well. So with that all said, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week. Peace.